Yo, King of the Pit Media signing in. Okie dokie. I'm going to talk to you about what some, and when I say some, I mean a lot of people over my years I have seen in discussion referencing this particular album as like the best hardcore album of all time, right? And when they say hardcore, you know, they arguably mean hardcore punk, maybe not to a literal genre-defining sense, but hardcore as in this is the essence of hardcore. This is the best hardcore album of all time. It possesses the characteristics necessary for me to legitimately categorize it as such. And we're going to talk about it. I've actually spun the record. I played it on, I streamed it on Spotify numerous times over the past couple of days to sort of pull myself together and formulate a stricter opinion on what I think of this album. Not being one that I'm familiar with this record. I've actually seen this band a couple of times at this point. But without wasting your time, this is the record we're going to speak on today, so put some respect on this. Pay attention. The Cro-Mags, the Cro-Magnons, with the album The Age of QUARREL. So have a look at that. Can you identify that? Have you heard this record before? Have you seen this record before? This is what we're going to discuss. A lot of people out there say this, and before you say, what you on about? That's not the best record of all time. Bruh. I'm not making it up. I've seen a fair few people discuss this record like it being the best hardcore album of all time. Now, I've seen this band live a couple of times. I have not seen this band fronted by Harley, but I've seen this band fronted by John Joseph because there was a split in the act. Politics, I don't know. I wasn't here when this record came out. I'm not a participant of any musical community. I'm just a consumer of music, okay? So I enjoyed seeing the act when I saw them. Vocally speaking, not the greatest performance, bit gassed out, which is kind of mad because the guy's in great shape. Both frontmen of this band doing their own different thing are fantastically in shape, you know? I don't expect to see them and experience them getting gassed, but if you're having a good time on stage, that's a part of the experience, you know. I guess that sort of sells itself as to why we're referencing this as a hardcore act. We're not looking for the pristine tight value of metal music, but not only is it a punk rock record, it's a very metal record. We've got chug guitars, not in a thrash metal sense, more so in a heavy metal sense. And we've got... We'll talk about the vocals in a bit, but we've also got like a reverb-drenched atmospheric metal production on this record. Distorted guitars, but not to a degree where we're talking extreme distortion like the metal tinge hardcore we have today, the heavy hardcore we have today, or the who cares? Let's talk about it. So we'll kick off this record with a tune called We Gotta Know. Catchy, punchy, in your face, powerful introduction. The introduction to the record, if not the first track, sums up a lot of the characteristic that I personally hear in my head when I think about New York hardcore music. I think of that hip-hop, boppier, more expressive, rhythmically snare beat in the mid-tempo riffing than what we get in other areas. Yeah? The demos of the later 80s, your outbursts, your breakdowns and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not a historian, I'm not a connoisseur, but I do relate that particular sound, the hip-hop infused sound, with New York hardcore. Get your dancing shoes on, go for a little bit of a jig, a little bit of a dance, go for a bop. You don't need to be causing too much trouble. I personally believe this album is an acquired taste, and I say that through my own personal experience. First listens, back in the day, all right, I get it. One of the first bands I was in, via someone else in the band, we covered a song off of this record, and that track was, what's it called? It's called It's the Limit, yeah? Let me just find out. It's the Limit, I think it's called, which was okay, and yeah, It's the Limit, and that song somewhat creates a framework for what I would consider half of the album. So we've got these brief, flirting around 2-minute hardcore tracks, and then we've got these longer form 3-4 minutes, slower tempo, more drawn out, ballad-esque in their own way tunes. The shorter songs are better. The shorter songs come with gang chants. Well, they all do, but the emphasis on the gang chants, the vocal hooks, absolutely phenomenal. The entire record has it, but it's more punchy when you have a little more emphasis, a little bit more of a kick, a little bit more of a tempo, a little bit more of a toe tap. And I know some people will disagree with that, because I think you get the best of both worlds on this record, and whatever side of the sound, whatever side of the writing suits you, suits you. Now, do I understand what people are talking about when they say this could be the best hardcore record of all time? Yeah, I actually do. I actually do, because it's well produced. It comes with a unique value, and we're going to do a video after this referencing Youth of Today, because I'm going to do a little talk on the Youth of Today debut LP. And in relation to that, I just need it to be let known that it's not necessarily the persona of the character. It's not the image of the man who's fronting the band. These bands that have stood the test of time within this particular field have come forth with such an incredibly unique vocal performance that, yes, you might love it or hate it, but you can't deny it is what you're listening to, and you can't deny that that which comes from there on is but an imitation. And there's a lot of imitations as far as the vocal lines are concerned with the majority of these New York bands, all right? Over here in England, you know, we got an act called TRC, and they got a line, "For Pete's sake, you are not from New York City." Dun 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 dun. TRC are a good band. TRC are a good band. So, with that being said, let's continue talking. The vocal line is infectious. Great character. You can hear the seeds as to which are planted that will then develop on into the later albums, or the albums from there on, where they really do take the heavy metal thing a little more serious, as to which some people say Best Wishes is the better album in that sequence. But for me personally, but it's because I've got a little bit of memory invested into this particular record. I like the record Alpha Omega because there's some great riffs on there, and it just reminds me of some good times with some good people. So I really like that record. But speaking on the content of this record as well, there is a maturity in it that continues to make sense. So when you listen to, you know, earlier bands' music from a different time, you're like, this isn't dated well. Like either historically it's not dated well, it's just not applicable, it's soft, or it's irrelevant, or as far as you as a human being growing a little older, you detach from the youthful notion that's portrayed within the lyrical content, and you're just like, I'm not really connected to that sort of stuff anymore. I'd rather, you know, I got bigger fish to fry, I got bigger problems than what these kids on this record are talking about. This particular album comes with a degree of maturity in the writing, comes with a a heavy dollop of masculinity, wholeheartedly. Multiple references of revenge. We're talking about street justice. We're talking about survival of the streets, which entwines with what I referenced with the association to that hip-hop subculture crossover spirit I find in this sort of music. And that's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing, because, you know, I wouldn't have had it as hard as these lot growing up in New York City, but there's a reason why I'm into this music, and there's a reason why I can correlate with the hip-hop crossover, and there's a reason why it speaks to my soul, and that's because there's a little bit of me in there. So I think as far as the grimier side of hardcore, it's quality. It really is good. It really is good. So I'm just going to have a little deke of what tunes we got on here. So we got World Peace Can't Be Done, which has an incredible line in it, one that sticks with me, and one which seems to be ahead of its time, not historically, but just as far as the phrasing and the quality of the lyric. It seems like something one of these egg punk bands will come up with. It says, if AIDS don't get you, then the warheads will. I like that line. I think there's an edge to it. I think there's a quirk to it. Show You No Mercy. Great. So generally, I'm just going to reference the tunes that are the more brief ones to start. We got Street Justice, great tune. Survival of the Streets. It's the Limit. Isn't my favourite, but like I said, we did cover it. Hard Times Coming Your Way. So in reference to Hard Times as well, there's a air of toughness to the record, but it's not a tough guy record. It doesn't pose itself. It doesn't overcompensate. There's no disbelief in my mind when I listen to this. I listen to 95% of these hardcore bands, especially now, especially in the local circuit and stuff, and any reference or any posturing of being like a tough guy, I think, shut the hell up. Like, it's an act, it's a facade. There's no legitimacy there. But with this particular record, the subject matter and the conceptual side of things, it comes across as very realistic. Don't Tread on Me, classic. So, like I said, there is a masculine element here. There is a potential of violence in this record, but not to an extent where it's crass or cheap. It's done very well. It's executed very well. And there you go. Yeah, some of the longer tunes, We Gotta Know. Yeah, it's a skip from me, generally speaking. It's one of the songs, but I'm not too fussed on it. Malfunction is a song I didn't like initially, but now I do. And like way more than a decade now, I seen a pop band cover Malfunction, and I think they got a little bit of a kick from it. I don't know what band that was or if they're still about, but we saw that. And yeah, very cool. Something I was unaware of until recent as well, which correlates with where the Cro-Mags went from here on, is the album title is The Age of Quarrel, and that's in reference to the Kali Yuga, which is Hindu prophecy, essentially. So you have this crossover with the Hare Krishnas and whatnot, what went on within that New York and external movement a little later. Was it a little bit later, or is it around that time, generally speaking? Which I find is fascinating, because I don't think many people correlate the Cro-Mags with that particular essence. But of course, you've got the artwork of and the imagery of Best Wishes and so on and so forth, where we're utilizing these Indian deities and absolutely badass imagery and that. But yeah, Age of Quarrel, I thought initially, earlier on, they've not really found this spiritual basis at this point, but I was just blind to see the reality that was. It is in reference to, you know, the dark times, the ages to which we apparently are in, you know, prior to the refreshing seasonally of this existence. Yeah, the Kali Yuga goes on for this is fascinating on a side note. The Kali Yuga, the period is, I think, 432,000 years. That's what they say. That's 432. 432 is what the harmonic resonance of the universe is, apparently. And then the powers that be in the record industry and so forth apparently started fucking with your brain by having you tune your instruments and having everything be tuned to 440 hertz as opposed to 432 hertz. There you go. There's a bit of esoteric knowledge there for you. So for them to conjure ideas such as this and have a little bit of a deeper level while still remaining like pretty on the nose, in your face quality, hardcore, emphasis on the hard, I think it's a great artistic product. And as far as people saying it's the best hardcore record of all time, at this moment in time, I can't think of too much other than like little niche personal choices I would put above and beyond this. You know, but as far as like general reception is concerned and where it stands, I mean, this was put out in 86. Imagine all of the great metal acts that was put out in 86. This was along the lines of that. This was hiding in the shadows of the Goliath metal records at this time, but it existed and it was there, and I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, on that note, I'm signing out. That's a little bit of a ramble and a rave. Peace.